Welcome back to Making the Case. We turn now to a remarkable story of hope and perseverance. Kwame Ajamu was just 17 years old when he was wrongfully convicted of murder back in 1975. The state's entire case was built on the testimony of just one witness, who later said police pressured him to point the finger at Kwame. He spent 28 years behind bars, several of them on death row, before being exonerated in 2014. Now that he's cleared his name, he's dedicated his life to helping others and abolishing the death penalty. I'm honored to have him here tonight to share his inspiring journey and story. Kwame Ajamu, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Now, before I get to all the good work that you're doing now, I want to first hear more about your story. You were just a teenager when you became the prime suspect in a murder that you didn't commit. What was that like for you to go through something like that at such a young age?
There's a very thin line between that which is obvious and that which is plain. And I always lived those 17 years of my early life, the obvious. My parents took care of me. I went to school. I had friends. I was just a kid, a man-child of 17 years. But what was plain was that there was a lurking enemy to the foundation of our neighborhood and our Black society. And that enemy was called wrongful incarceration. And he came into my neighborhood when I was 17 years old, May of 1975. And he accosted myself, my brother who was 20, and my good friend Ricky Jackson, who was 18. Charged us with aggravated murder and sentenced us to die. I was, in fact, sentenced to die all before I turned 18. My birthday is in October. We caught the case in May, and by September of 1975, I had already been sentenced to die. This crime was one that was very atrocious. There was a Caucasian man of 59 years who entered my neighborhood on what would be the last day of his life. He was a United States money order salesman. He entered my neighborhood to go to the neighborhood store there to complete his route. Upon leaving the store, he was accosted and robbed of his liberty and his life. Myself, my brother, my friend would be charged for that crime and sentenced to die on the word of a 12-year-old kid, who we would later find out that he was coerced by Cleveland's finest, based on the fact that his mother was in university hospitals at that time, suffering and subsequently dying from ovarian cancer. And so he used, the officers used that leverage against this kid, saying that, well, if you don't say that you saw these guys, you would perjure yourself. You're too young, so we'll go to the hospital and take your mother. So he chose, to save his mother and tell the story against the three neighborhood boys. I would spend 3 years
Kwame,
on death row.
that is, I was going to say that is pretty much what we hear on a weekly basis on the show when we talk about exonerations, where a witness is coerced, pressured by law enforcement to pinpoint the wrong person. So you've been wrongfully accused of a crime you didn't commit, prosecuted, convicted, and sentenced to death. How does a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, a teenager deal with that fact, the fact that they are going to die for something they didn't do, but having to go through the day-to-day life on death row at such a young age?
So there is there's an element of mental dismantlation that goes on in the side of you when you're sentenced to die. As a child, the very thing that I held dear to me, which was wanting to grow up and be either a fireman or a cop, now was destroyed because, these cats were putting me to death, and I knew that I was innocent, and that they were wrong for what they were doing to me. So, but there on death row, um, is where you reach your constitutionality of being a human being. Um, no doubt PTSD comes in effect. You will suffer that all the days of your life thereafter. Some men and women suffer very, very worse than others. But day three on death row for me, still, you know, discombobulated and had been, um, how can I say, abused by the administration coming into the system simply by them having me strip and spread my oil fixes and things that I've never done before.